Okay, looking at the fourth rule, uh, and down at the bottom, it does say that all final answers must be positive. That actually should say that all final answers, exponents, must be positive. And so if you'll take a look here, we've got a negative exponent. And so we've got to make this positive somehow. And you see that we have an answer of 1 over 5. Well, to begin with, this doesn't make just a tremendous amount of sense because we probably weren't expecting to get a fraction. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We have x to the negative 5, and we need to make this positive. And we get 1 over x to the 5th. So maybe some stuff starting to make a little bit more sense now, but let's keep going. So we do this one. Now this one is a fraction, and the negative exponent's on the bottom. And so let's take a look and see what happens here. This one, all of a sudden, it's no longer a fraction, and we get x to the 7th. So let's go back and look at these three. This one started off as 5 to the negative 1, and then when it became positive, it was 1 over, this was 1 over 5 to the first power. So this right here got flipped to the bottom of a fraction and became to the first power. This right here was x to the negative 5, and it got flipped onto the bottom and became positive as well. Now, some people are saying, well, where'd the fraction bar come from? Well, anytime you have a whole number, it's always understood to be over 1. So that whenever you take this and you flip it to the bottom, this 5 to the negative 1 becomes 5 to the positive 1, the one's understood here. And because there's nothing left on top, we go ahead and put a 1. So once again, there was a fraction bar understood to be right here. It flips to the bottom, and because there's nothing left on the bottom, or I'm sorry, on the top, we just put a 1 there. Now this one was already a fraction. So when we got our negative 7, this one flipped up to the top. And when it flipped up to the top, there was no need for a fraction bar anymore, so this one just became x to the 7th. Let's take a look at a little bit bigger problem, and maybe this will start to make a little bit more sense. If we take this right here, once again, this is one big fraction bar. And so if I was to take my negative exponents, the a to the negative 2 and c to the negative 5, I could flip them down to the bottom and make them positive. This would leave me with 4 on top, because it's positive, it stays. B to the 3rd on top, it's positive, it stays. But these two right here flip to the bottom. The next example is a huge example. And so, once again, we still have a fraction. And what I want you to see here is that every one that has a negative is going to flip. So 9 to the negative 3rd was on the top. It flipped down to the bottom and became positive. Now, a squared was positive, so it stayed on top. B to the negative 4 was negative, went down to the bottom and became positive. C to the negative 2 was negative, went down to the bottom and became positive. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to click that. But just as we continue on here, 5 to the negative 2 was negative. Now this one flipped to the top. So if it's not that all negatives go to the bottom. If it's on the bottom and it's negative, then it flips up to the top. And then x to the negative 7 will flip up to the top, but y to the 3rd is positive. It's going to stay on the bottom. So if it's positive, it stays where it's at. Only the negatives flip. And if the negative is on the top, it flips to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, it flips to the top. So going to the rule that I've already clicked, when a base has a negative exponent, the base and the exponent will flip the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top. When it does, the exponent will become positive. So in every single one of these, the exponent flipped to become positive. And like we said, if it was already on the bottom, then it flipped up to the top and became positive. Right here is a really good example of putting the entire rule together. And like I said, negative on the top, flip to the bottom. Negative on the bottom, flip to the top. But if it's positive, it must stay. So a squared was positive, stays on top. Y to the 3rd is positive and stays on the bottom. So this right here is just 4 of the rules with exponents. Like I said, it does not cover all the rules, but 4 big rules that really are important.